You guys absolutely loved my video talking about the 2014 high school wide receiver class and what happened to the top 10 guys. In today's video, I thought I would do a follow-up, and while we won't be talking about the top 10, we're going to talk about the 10 guys after. What does that mean? Obviously, it means we're going to talk about guys 20 through 11, what happened to them, and try to determine if the 2014 class is really as bad as advertised, or if it just continues to get worse. But right before we get into today's video, nearly 82% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel, so let's quickly change that by hitting that subscribe button, smash that like button for the algorithm, as it really helps the channel, turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload, and let me know another topic I could do in my next video. Now, let's get started and talk about the 2014 wide receiver class, part 2. So the first player we need to start with is a guy by the name of Armonte Foreman. If you're a Texas or a big college football fan, then you likely know who the Foreman twins are. Coming out of Texas City, Texas, both Armonte and Deontay Foreman blossomed into big-time recruits. They were wanted by multiple schools, but Armonte was the biggest deal of them all. According to 24/7 Sports, Armonte was the number 20 wide receiver and the 142nd best player in the class of 2014. Foreman decided to stay home and play for the Texas Longhorns, where he'd end up having a decently long career for them. In 2014, he'd catch 10 passes for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns, and as a sophomore, he had pretty much mirror-like numbers as he caught 11 passes for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2016 would be his best year as a Longhorn, as he caught 34 passes for 420 yards and 3 scores. He would come back for his senior year, and in 2017, he ended up catching 31 passes for 280 yards and 4 scores. He basically was a 4th or 5th option on the team every single year, and he really wasn't that bad. To finish his Longhorn career, he caught 86 passes for 1,070 yards and 11 touchdowns. Deontay, on the other hand, had a great Texas career. In 2016, he ran for over 2,000 yards and 15 touchdowns in one season, and he ended up becoming a third-round draft pick to the Houston Texans. While Deontay Foreman lobbied for NFL teams to draft his brother, he ended up going undrafted at the end of the day. From there, Armonte went up to the CFL, and I cannot seem to find any of his social media, so I don't know what he is up to now. Either way, he had a decent career, but he definitely did not live up to his blue chip hype. For a while, Parris Campbell was not a big deal on the recruiting scene. He was only a 3-star recruit coming out of the city of Akron, but he would later blow up into the star we know today. Going to the same high school that LeBron went to of St. Vincent St. Mary's, Campbell ran for 1,600 yards and 22 touchdowns and eventually led his school to back-to-back state championships. Because of that, he got offers from schools such as Ohio State, Tennessee, Michigan State, and Indiana, but he became one of the first commits of the Buckeyes 2014 class. He was obviously the 19th best receiver in this class, and when he got to Ohio State, he would make an impact. He would not actually end up playing until 2016, where he caught 13 passes for 121 yards. In 2017, he'd have a breakout role with the team, as he caught 40 passes for 584 yards and 3 touchdowns. Finally, in 2018, which would be his last year, he had a breakout season. He caught a team-high 90 passes for 1,063 yards and 12 touchdowns and helped Ohio State get to the Rose Bowl. Because of that, he was seen as a Day 2 NFL draft pick, and that is exactly what happened when the Indianapolis Colts selected him with the 59th overall pick. Unfortunately, his NFL career has not gone to plan. In 2019, he got hurt, in 2020, he got hurt, and in 2021, he got hurt. In total in the NFL, he's caught 34 passes for 360 yards and 2 touchdowns, but as a Colts fan myself, it looks like they're about to give up on Campbell as he just can't stay healthy. Parris had a long college career, but he actually did live up to the hype, and he got to the NFL, but sadly the injury bug has held him back. He is not a bust. At number 18, we actually have a pretty cool story for a player. Mark Andrews grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he was famously known for having diabetes. His high school quarterback was a guy by the name of Kyle Allen. Eventually, Andrews actually set the Arizona high school record for career receptions, but Nebraska's Cade Warner would eventually break that. Because of that, Andrews was seen as a big-time deal on the recruiting trail, and he committed to play at Oklahoma. After redshirting in 2014, I guess the coaching staff thought it'd be better if he moved to tight end, but it never affected his production. As a freshman, he caught 19 passes for 318 yards, which doesn't sound special, but then you gotta look that he had 7 touchdowns. He became an end zone threat for Baker Mayfield, and that continued in 2016 as he caught 31 passes for 489 yards and 7 touchdowns once again. 2017 would be a career year for him as he caught 62 passes for 958 yards and 8 touchdowns, en route to being named a unanimous All-American, and as we know, Oklahoma got to the college football playoff. Because of how good he was, Mark Andrews was expected to be a day 2 pick in the draft like Campbell was, and he was taken with the 86th overall pick by the Baltimore Ravens. Since then, he became a Pro Bowler in 2019 and has had a great career for the Ravens. In 4 seasons there, he's caught 212 passes for 2,801 yards and 24 touchdowns. Andrews might be the best receiver we've taken a look at in either video so far. Coming out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, we have another guy who became a Sooner. He went to Union High School, and Jeffrey Mead had a great career while he was there. Like a lot of kids, one of his goals was to stay home and play for the best university in the state, so Mead gladly accepted an offer to play for the Sooners. Unfortunately, his career didn't exactly go to plan, but it wasn't bad either. He caught 6 passes for 66 yards as a freshman, and then as a sophomore, he would have his best year as he caught 10 passes for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. As a senior, he caught 6 passes for 98 yards, and overall, he finished his Oklahoma career with 22 receptions for 314 yards and 4 touchdowns. Obviously, he did a couple things here and there, but he was not really going to get a chance in the NFL, which is why he started his own media company, and he's a guy who used his brand name at Oklahoma to turn it into something off the field after football. We have a very disappointing story for the next guy in the video. Coming out of Alif Elsek High School in the Houston, Texas area, Ishmael Zamora was a football star. According to every recruiting service, he was a big deal, and he decided to take his talents to Baylor. He would join KD Cannon, who was a 5-star, and these two were going to wreak havoc in the Big 12. At least, that's what we thought. Zamora ended up redshirting before he caught 9 passes for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman, and then in 2016, he actually had a breakout season. He caught 63 passes for 809 yards and 8 touchdowns. Those alone are numbers that might get you to the NFL, but then you gotta realize he did something off the field. Early on in 2016, there was a video that surfaced of him abusing his dog, and he obviously got suspended for that, and that did not sit well with most people. It's absolutely terrible to hear, and that is why he was not invited to the NFL Combine. Zamora did leave after his 3rd year in Baylor, and did get an opportunity in the NFL. He got signed to the Oakland Raiders practice squad, but he never made it there. Since then, he spent 1 year in the Alliance of American Football in San Antonio, and then 2 years in arena ball. Zamora was a 1-season wonder for the Bears, and while you can't say he was terrible that year, overall he didn't live up to the hype, and I do not like his actions. As we get halfway through today's video, the next guy may have the worst story of all of them. Coming out of Parris, Mississippi, Markell was one of the top receivers in the class of 2014. Like a lot of big-time talent at the time, he recognized what Hugh Freeze was doing in Oxford, so he decided to become an Ole Miss Rebel. He'd actually play as a true freshman, as he caught 14 passes for 173 yards, and then in 2015, he'd have his best season as a collegiate player. He ended up catching 31 passes for 380 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that was pretty much the peak of everything. From there, he only caught a combined 18 passes for 300 yards and a touchdown, and then he got in some major trouble off the field. In 2018, he was arrested for domestic violence, and obviously that is absolutely horrible. Markell did not live up to the hype on or off the field, unfortunately. Now we have a player that I've always wanted to do a video on, I just never got around to it, but he was a big deal. His name is Trey Quinn. Coming out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Trey Quinn always was a big-time athlete, as he was actually famous for throwing a no-hitter in the 2008 Little League World Series. Eventually, he went to Barbie High School in Lake Charles, and he had a good career. He finished his high school career with 70 touchdowns and 6,566 receiving yards, which at the time made him the national all-time leader in high school receiving yards. Because of that, he was a big deal and was seen as a 4-star recruit. He committed to LSU over Auburn, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Texas, and he was going to stay home and help LSU. In 2014, he'd play in most of their games, catching 17 passes for 193 yards. In 2015, his role would diminish as he had only caught 5 passes for 83 yards. So what did he do? Well, he transferred. He would have to sit out in 2016, but he transferred to SMU and had one of the best seasons we've seen. While a Mustang, he caught 114 passes for 1,236 yards and 13 scores. Despite that, he was not even a first or second or third team All-American, which didn't make sense, but he was drafted. In fact, he was Mr. Irrelevant in the 2018 NFL Draft. From there, he was signed to the Washington Redskins, where in his time there, he caught 35 passes for 273 yards and 2 touchdowns. He has also played for both the Jaguars and the Raiders, but he has not registered a stat and has been more of a practice squad kind of player. While he may not be a household name, Trey Quinn is not a bust. His time at LSU was not anything to remember, but his lone season at SMU is incredible, and he did get to the NFL and at least played a little bit in the NFL, so you can't really say the dude was a bust. Good for Trey. Coming in at number 13 on the list, we have a player who didn't do a whole lot in the NFL, but had a great and memorable college career. His name was Artavis Scott. He went to Eastlake High School in Florida, and during his time there, he had over 5,000 all-purpose yards and 51 touchdowns. Some rated him as a top 10 receiver in the 2014 class, but by 24/7, he was number 13. Because of that, he decided to commit to play football at Clemson, where he would have an impact right away. In 2014, he would catch 76 passes for 965 yards and 8 touchdowns. As a sophomore, he increased his reception number to 93, but his yards dropped to 901, and he caught 2 less touchdowns with 6. His numbers would also take a dip in 2016, but he was still great. He had caught 76 passes for 614 yards and 5 scores. Artavis Scott was a 3-year contributor for Clemson. He obviously won a ring, and will go down as one of the better receivers in recent memory. He caught a total of 245 passes for 2,480 yards and 19 scores while he was there, and naturally he went on to the NFL. He was signed by the Chargers as an undrafted free agent, and was reunited with Mike Williams. He was later waived and signed to different practice squads over the next few years, and in early 21, he was with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but now he retired to take a coaching job, which is good for him. Drake Harris went to Grand Rapids Christian High School in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and was one of the top receivers to come out of the state in quite a while. Harris obviously had offers from a lot of big-time programs, but it would come down to the 2 flagship schools in the state. Harris decided to become part of the Green and White and commit to Michigan State. Then, everything took a curveball as he eventually flipped to the Michigan Wolverines. This definitely ruffled some feathers amongst in-state people, and now he would need to produce at Michigan. Well, it didn't really happen. After redshirting, he only caught 6 passes as a freshman, 2 passes as a sophomore, and 1 pass as a junior. After the 2017 season, he would decide to enter the transfer portal, or he would head to Western Michigan. To be fair, the Broncos have produced a lot of wide receiver talent, including Corey Davis, Greg Jennings, and most recently Dwayne Eskridge, so this would not be a bad landing spot for him. He didn't really produce though. He caught 27 passes for 255 yards and a touchdown, and while that's alright, that's not going to get you to the NFL. Frank Iheanacho is the last guy we're going to talk about in today's video. As coming out of Westside High School in Houston, Texas, the 6'6" receiver was going to make an impact wherever he went. He decided to sign for Texas A&M, where many were expecting him to have a great year. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. In 2014, he caught 2 passes. He didn't play in 2015, and then in 2016, he caught 6 passes. He did not live up to the hype at all, and he even got in some legal trouble off the field. From there, he would transfer to Stephen F. Austin, where he would try to save his career. While he was there, he caught 5 passes for 43 yards and 1 touchdown. I saw some articles saying he was a diamond in the rough for the 2019 NFL Draft, but with those kind of numbers, I don't know how you can justify even writing an article. Either way though, Frank was also a big-time basketball player, so maybe his heart wasn't truly in the sport of football, and maybe that's why things didn't work out for him. We will never know though. So yeah, in today's video we took a look at the 2014 receiver class part 2, more specifically guys 11 through 20. When you take a look at them, Artavis Scott, Trey Quinn, Mark Andrews, and Parris Campbell all had really good careers, and those 4 I would say lived up to the hype. Armonte Foreman and Ishmael Zamora both had decent careers, and then the rest of them were busts. The top 10 was pretty much the same way, and while it may have helped a little bit, I still think the 2014 wide receiver class was very weak, and if you guys want to see a part 3, we will do a part 3. But let me know your thoughts. Do you remember any of these guys from this list? What topic should I do next? And what class should I take a look at next? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section. Smash that like button if you want to support today's video on the channel, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including part 1. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.